this is kind of off topic, but talking about taxes and jail, do you think that decriminalizing marijuana, do you think that'll save on like tax dollars in prisons? Because you gotta wonder how many people.
Yes, actually,
Absolutely.
If you are pro-tax, legalizing marijuana, it could be one of the best decisions you ever make.
Oh yeah.
You know how much more,
and even psychedelic drugs in the future.
yeah, and that is something that I agree with even more than marijuana, because some people say marijuana is like useful medicinally, and I understand that. That's more of like a calming, relaxing, depressant effect that can make your days livable.
Oh yeah.
Psychedelics can make you live. That can make your life. Microdosing psychedelic drugs can literally change your life.
Oh yeah.
And substantially for the better. If we had a society of people taking psychedelic drugs, I think our society would be much better. If everybody in the world did a little bit of, psychedelics,
I think microdosing.
Our world would be so much better.
Microdosing, yes, but I don't think if you were taking like
no,
200
I don't mean
milligrams
everybody should be walking around tripping.
LSD every day.
I won't
maybe like
directly support any use of drugs. Now, that's me. Like, I won't do it, right? I'm not going to encourage someone else to do it either, unless it's medicinal. And then if you think it's going to legitimately help you, do that within legal reason. I'm not going to tell anyone to go break the law. But I do think if it's legal, I'm a statistical man, right? I haven't looked at this in a long time, right? So I can't say with full certainty if I'm right or not. But I'm sure if you look at states where they've legalized it, things are going a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
They got a lot tax money. They got a lot less people in prison, And
the thing is, if you legalize drugs, violent crime is going to go way down because people don't have to go in alleys and risk getting shot to sell drugs.
Oh yeah. And I think less people will be doing more hardcore drugs because
the less hardcore drugs are more accessible.
Oh yeah, and because who do you buy marijuana from when it's legal? You buy it from the same people who sell heroin and crack, and now you're buying it from a store full of hippie progressive people in a very in downtown in your city, and you're not going out in these
God knows
the
where
inner city to buy drugs. And I think people say marijuana is an entry drug.
No,
but it's not it's not marijuana. It's where they are finding this marijuana, where they're getting it from, and who they're using it with.
And I think if you give somebody the better option, if you give them a bad option and a good option, unless they're an absolute moron or already addicted, they're going to pick the better option. If you start them on the right trail from the beginning, you're going to have a lot better result than if you start them, ambiguously in the middle where everything's just kind of mush.
When you see places that have done such things, not just with marijuana, I believe it was Portugal had a similar program where didn't they legalize like almost all drugs?
They didn't legalize all of them. They decriminalized all of them.
Okay, but that's still in the same type of area.
Yeah.
And the results were fabulous. Like statistically significant to the point where you could look at it and be like, yeah, that's what they did. This worked. It worked for them very, very well.
Yeah.
Crime's down. Everything's looking a lot better over there. Now, I also think, though, if you were to decriminalize harder drugs, I'm not going to say for full certainty because, there is always that probability that everything just becomes a complete mess. I don't think so. I don't hope so, but it's possible. But you also have to think, who does marijuana now?
Like a significant amount of the population.
Like a bunch of people, right?
Like 20% of the high school.
So by the same token, how many people do heroin?
A lot.
Well, but not as much.
No, not as widespread, but we live in Huntington, West Virginia.
Well, that's one area. You think there's over 50% of Americans, there's at least 50% of Americans that have smoked weed at some point in their life.
Yeah, for sure.
How many people have done heroin? A lot less.
A lot less.
Many fewer.
A lot less, right? And the reason for that is I think people have common sense, right? I think people understand like, oh, weed, it's not gonna really like affect me, even as much as like tobacco. You smoke a cig, you're kind of hooked. Marijuana is not as addictive.
No.
So
and it's not as bad for your lungs either. It isn't.
Overall, I'd say the effects aren't as bad.
No.
So you have marijuana. That's not as big a deal as if you're shooting up heroin or meth. And I think if you legalize things, the people who would be using hard drugs are the same type of people who would be using them before. Like you're not gonna have a perfect Catholic girl. You know, she may get a little feisty and break away from, you know, rebel and do some weed, but she's still not going to be doing meth or cocaine. No. Not everyone. There's not going to be people running widespread doing all that.
And I think one of the big problems with this issue is the labels and what has been put into our brains, because what has been put into our brains, at least into my brain my whole life, is that marijuana is just as bad as pretty much heroin. That's what I was told from a young age. But why do people think this? They didn't have any evidence to back it up. I think why people thought this is because it was illegal.
Yeah,
that was the only reason.
That's exactly why.
Yeah.
Same with psychedelics. Why are psychedelics bad? Because they are illegal. They don't know why they're bad. They don't know what they'll do. They'll say, "Oh, you'll overdose on them." Well, you can't overdose on marijuana. You can't.
You shouldn't follow a law that doesn't make sense, and that basically means you need to figure out why the law makes sense. If you don't know why the law makes sense, why are you following it?
Now, I disagree in that you should just break any law you think isn't right or go against that, because I think if the law is there, it should be followed, but if it's unjust, it needs to be changed. And if it's unjust to the point where it's harming the well-being of your life, then it needs to be broken. If you're a black man living in the South or a black woman living in the South in the 1960s and they're not, you know, the whites aren't letting you do something, or they're not letting you, you know, Rosa Parks type stuff. You know, she's not allowed to sit on her seat in the bus and she doesn't give it up. Do that. Be disobedient. Don't give up your seat.
Well, wouldn't that be like borderline breaking the law anyways?
That's kind of what I'm saying. Is like, you know, if you've got to break the law to do something that fundamentally affects your well-being as a human being, do it. Absolutely.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The same thing still applies, like smoking marijuana. You know, why is the law there? I don't know. It shouldn't be. It's not just. I'm not harming somebody else.
Why did we...
You know, not me. Like, I don't sit down in the basement here and, you know, smoke away on marijuana for like 4 days straight. But there are people that would, you know. And why should I stop them? I'm not going to.
And most of them are just carefree stoners.
Yeah,
a lot of them.
They're not hurting me. They're not hurting you.
They never get caught anyway.
And
you know?
Why did we criminalize psychedelic drugs in the 60s and then tell people that they were going to get schizophrenia? And that what was one of the wild things that they told people? I
know they say it kills your brain cells, and you know.
A lot of that isn't true.
It's the opposite.
Now, if you
schizophrenia can be actually
treated, right?
I don't know if that's the correct
word. You
need
dopamine.
You can improve your condition with the use of psychedelic drugs in certain dosages. Like, you can't just, like,
I would
pump your brain and spine full of LSD and expect it to cure
microdosing. Microdosing is a good... because I actually looked into, like, the dosages. I saw a lot of people were taking, like, 10... I think it was, like, 10 milligrams. And, like, it was, like, so small, and they just put it on their tongue, and it was... Then they'd go on with their day, and they wouldn't take it for, like, another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know? And, like, they would say it makes them so much more happier, cures their anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, eating disorders.
That's great.
Everything. There was a lawyer from California. I don't know her name, but she is a big advocate of psychedelic drugs. She was about to kill herself. She was looking up ways to kill herself, and she found psychedelic drugs. I believe it was shrooms, and she started taking them, and it literally changed her life. Like, it made her feel more appreciative of what she had and the things around her, and she realized how beautiful actually like life was. It made her realize, and I've heard a lot of people say when microdosing that they have this realization of how we should perceive the world and how the world actually is,
Yeah.
not how we perceive it, because we perceive it as some dark, terrible place when
It's not.
It's not.
The fact that we have anything, the fact that we can perceive anything at all and have sensations.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
That's great. That's all I could ask for.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's exactly right.
But and like we said, the only reason people think they're bad is because they're illegal, and people subject them and put them in the same group as stuff like heroin, and it's not the case,